Albo's poor handling of the rally and the fallout wasn't the only scandal to hurt his government this week. There was also a media storm after it was revealed the elderly woman bashed unconscious in WA was allegedly assaulted by one of the detainees released after the High Court ruling last year.
Well, the Albanese government is under fire once more over the detainee scandal after a released man was charged over a violent attack on a grandmother in Perth.
So what did Labor's ministers responsible for this mess say? Well, in the very few media appearances they actually made, it was not their fault at all.
My thoughts, I'm sure all of our thoughts are with Mr. and Mrs. Simons at this time, particularly during their recovery. And perhaps I should also say this, I'm also going to have to be very careful, as you'd appreciate, in terms of my comments, as these relate to matters which are before the courts, and it would be inappropriate for me to comment on specifics about a matter that is the subject of a police investigation.
Now, what you've referred to there is a bunch of decisions that were made by state courts, usually with regard to state crimes. But as a Commonwealth Minister, I can't do anything to change what state courts decide to do with regard to bail.
I don't think the state government was responsible for his ankle bracelet, was it? Wasn't that the Community Protection Board?
So one of the layers of protection that we have in place, Nat, is a group of very experienced law enforcement officials make decisions about how people will be monitored in the community. Again, I can't speak to the specifics in this individual case, but I will say that this is one of the layers of protection we've put in place.
And another Labor minister bungled this interview when she suggested that her government had opposed bail, meaning it wasn't their fault at all.
I am aware that this is now a police matter. Bail had been opposed.
But Sky's Trudy McIntosh was soon proving the communications minister had spread misinformation.
The Albanese government's handling of the detainee crisis is going from bad to worse. Now, Sky News can reveal the Commonwealth did not oppose bail despite claiming it did. That's for the detainee in Western Australia accused of breaching his curfew. It does get worse too. Cabinet ministers were misled about that fact in the daily talking points. Our senior political reporter Trudy McIntosh has this breaking news for us now.
As Sky News has revealed this morning, on this crucial matter of bail for one of the men accused of attacking Nanette Simons, as you can see here on screen, bail was not opposed by the Commonwealth back earlier in the year when he had allegedly breached the curfew. That's the matter in which the Commonwealth could have opposed bail. On separate state matters, they didn't have a role in that. But on the breach of the visa, which was alleged to have taken place, yesterday, the senior government source who is intimately involved in these matters told Sky News on 3 occasions the Commonwealth, in fact, had opposed bail. But 24 hours later, they've conceded that that was, in fact, wrong. The bail was not opposed at the time. And this was what was inserted in the talking points. I've had them leaked to me today in the wake of this to clarify, was this what ministers were told? And here's what it said. The talking points explicit that bail was, in fact, opposed.
Sophie Ellsworth, let's bring you in. What a mess. What do you make of the fallout? And do you think this is going to hurt them, particularly their media performances in trying to explain it?
Well, it's very damaging, Jack, when the ministers are given talking points and they are wrong, and then they go out and, parrot these talking points, and then they're caught out by spreading misinformation. I mean, it's a bungling of a bungling of a bungle. It's just an absolute disaster. And then that spreads through the media. So the information spreads and then the correction spreads. They need to get their house in order, Jack, because the coverage that the government is getting by the media now is rightly so incredibly critical and quite scathing from some quarters of the media. And it's important when they are dealing with matters that are so vital in Australia, so critical in Australia, they need to get their messaging bang on, and they have failed miserably this week.
Yeah, I guess the Communications Minister will have to send the E-Safety Commissioner after herself. But there's also another element to this. There was an exclusive interview by Nine I want to get your reaction to. Let's take a listen.
I don't feel very safe here anymore, unfortunately. I don't. But I'm doing my best to live here. I don't know. Was his ankle bracelet removed in March? He should be safe, but, we feel we've been let down.
Michelle,
Yeah.
pretty powerful stuff.
Really powerful stuff. And I think the issue here as well is the ankle bracelet. So apparently there's the board that oversees whether they have to wear the ankle bracelet or not. And the government and Albo has been out there saying, look, I don't want to comment on this. It's before the courts, but yet it was someone else's fault. So they've been saying, look, it's this board that oversees that, has nothing to do with the government. Yet there's former Home Affairs ministers who are on that board who oversee that. And at the end of the day, the final person who gets their say is Claire O'Neill. So at the end of the day, they need to take responsibility for something that has gone completely wrong. I don't understand how difficult it is for them to say, you know what, we got this one wrong. We will make sure that this does not happen again. That Perth grandmother, what she went through is shocking.
Yeah, I don't know who's giving them this press advice, but I imagine there are some people having some tough conversations from the ministers.